Hi, I'm Tom Jones. Welcome back. It's good to see you again. I hope you're enjoying my series on this DVDs that we're doing. And for this next episode, I'm going to do some grass for you. I want to show you how you can put in some grass. We're going to do a little bit on color changes and so forth to make the grass more interesting. In this particular example here, I've got some foliage in the background, some brush, some bushes or whatever. We'll put that in. That will help anchor the scene and so forth. But we want to have a little fun with this grass, so you're going to see me adding a lot of nice colors. You'll get to see me use some spray bottles in here to create some texture in the grass, to introduce a new concept to you. So I hope you'll follow along here and watch as I paint. I'm going to take one of my spray bottles. This one happens to have a nice mixture of yellow and bright yellow and green in it to give me a nice light green. Watch what happens when I take and apply that to my paper. See that beautiful color that's occurring there? Isn't that gorgeous? And what's happening is this particular spray bottle is shooting dots. It's not misting like a hairspray bottle. It's actually shooting dots. So what I'm doing is I'm going to come back and get another color. This one happens to be yellow. Same idea. We'll add just a little bit of yellow. And again, we're just adding some dots to that. See how we're doing a little bit of a variety of color? Now, we don't want to do this everywhere in this particular area of foliage. Otherwise, it becomes mundane. But just in a couple of areas, we're going to use this idea. Let me make it just a little more solid in a couple of areas. We'll add a little more yellow to it. And I'll show you exactly how this will all come together for you. Watch now as I take my brush, and I'll come over to my palette, and I'm going to get some light green, similar to the green that I'm using here. And I'm going to come in, and I'm going to just now apply some of that color, and watch how I use my brush work. I'm actually just kind of rotating this. I used the example before that it's sort of like stirring gravy in a skillet. That's what it looks like. Now notice also that I'm leaving some white space in here. I'm doing that on purpose. I don't want this to be blended like you're painting the wall in your house. I want this to be textured like it is in nature. Remember, in nature there's an awful lot of texture. Nature is so beautiful, and we want to capture that on this particular paper here. So I'm going to go along just a little farther. I'm going to change colors again. This time I might pick up a little bit of my yellow ochre. So I'll pick up a nice yellow ochre. You'll get to see how this looks on the paper. Same idea. We'll pick it up and we'll come in and we'll just sort of scrub in just a little bit of that yellow ochre. And again, don't do this everywhere, just in a couple of areas. We want a color change going on in the particular foliage, so we don't want to have that look everywhere, that same look. I'm going to come over and get a little bit darker green. In this case, it's called a permanent green, and we'll add just a little bit of a permanent green. Notice how this green's a little darker than this green. So we're doing another color change. See how much fun this can be? We'll come back and take the spray bottle again. We'll introduce a little bit more color. So I'll put a little more yellow in so you can see exactly how that looks. All right. Now, this may at this point not look exactly like bushes or foliage in the area, but guess what? Once this is dry, I'll come back and I'll introduce some tree branches to it. I'll add some more color in here, and it'll look just like bushes. So for the time being, I'm going to let this area of the painting or the example stand on its own, let it dry, and I'm going to go ahead and do the grass area. Watch what I do in the grass area. Same idea. Let's take a little bit of this particular light blue color. I'm going to take some of my cerulean blue and mix it in with my Hooker Green Deep here. I want to get a nice light value going on here. We'll come in and watch what I do with my brush. I'm going to just come in here and I'm going to just drag my brush across this particular scene. See how I've done that? In a couple of areas. I'm leaving some white space. In other words, again, I'm not blending. Don't take your brush now and blend that and eliminate all that white space. You want to keep that white space in there. It's important. The reason that I'm using this particular color this far back at the edge of where the bushes are, as I come forward, I want to warm up the grass a little bit. So it's going to be cooler in the distance, because in the distance you want it cooler because cool colors recede. It shows distance in the painting. As you come forward in the painting, your colors generally would be warmer. That's the example that I want to give you today. So notice how I'm leaving the cool colors for this back area. Just continuing on, watch what I do again, just kind of scrubbing in the color. Now as I come forward, I can start getting a little warmer if I want. In other words, I can take some of my permanent green as an example and start coming forward with the same idea. So I've got a nice range of color going on here, a nice variety of color also. Remember, the variety of color entertains. So you want to make sure that you're entertaining the viewer with a variety of color. So I'm doing a nice color change going on here. Watch what happens as I come forward. Watch how I introduce now some of the spray bottle again. Watch this. Isn't that fun? And what I'll do where I'm leaving that spray bottle, those little dots, I want to leave that alone. I don't want to come back and blend that. So I'm going to just continue on, put in a few more dots in that particular area. See how I've done that? And I'll leave that area just as it is. I'll come back over here. I'm going to take my larger brush now. I'll pick up maybe a little bit of my Hooker Green Deep, and I'll come in and just start layering in some of that color. Notice how it starts to have a nice variety of color change, and as I come forward, you're going to see me start to warm up this color just a little bit more. And I'll do that by introducing maybe a little bit more of my my gold ochre, or yellow ochre in this case, and some of my burnt sienna, and watch how I can warm up this area just a little bit. Then I'll come in if I want. I'll add in some of my bright yellow. I've got a nice bright lemon yellow here. We'll add some of that color in so that we get warmer as we come forward. Now again, you might say, gee, this doesn't look an awful lot like grass, but it will. This is just an underpainting, so watch what happens now. I'm going to take some of my Hooker Green that I have in this bottle, and I'm going to do the same thing here I did over here. I'll just add just a little bit of that in to create a look of texture in the foreground. So you can see how I've created the look of texture by using that particular spray bottle. These are a lot of fun. I'll pick up a little bit of this excess color. Be careful not to eliminate what I did here. As far as my spray bottle, we'll add just a little bit more of that touch in this area. A little bit over in here. Then we'll take a little bit of our yellow. We'll add a little bit more yellow on this side. And just warm that area up. Then if I want, I can come in, add just a little bit more of my ochre color and my sienna color, just for a little bit more warmth in a couple of areas. Now, I'm going to take a moment here and I'm going to dry this. Don't go away. I'll be right back, but I'm going to dry this for you, and then you'll see me put the finishing touches on this, and it'll all come alive for you. It'll look like grass, it'll look like bushes, and so forth. So stay with me. I'll be right back. Hi, I'm Tom Jones again. Welcome back. While I was away, I took some time and I dried the painting for you because I want to add more color here in this particular area of the bushes. And if this area was still wet, when I put the other color in front of it, it would just blend into the color I already have, and you wouldn't have an edge to the tops of the new area of bushes that I'm going to add to it. In addition to that, I want to create by using what's called negative painting, meaning I'm going to come in here and I'm going to carve out the shape of what appears to be an edge of grass here in the distance. You'll get to see me do that. But let's just review for a moment on what we did earlier. As you notice, we used a little bit of our spray bottle, our yellow and our green, and we added in here some yellow ochre to give a little more variety. Going back into here, we added a little permanent green, a little darker green than this. Again, all to give you an entertainment value to it in the sense that you have a variety going on of color. In the area of what's going to become the grass, we did the same thing. We used some cerulean blue in the distance to keep a nice light value back here. Then as we came forward, we added some of our permanent green, some of our light green, a little bit of spray bottle, even added in some burnt sienna up here, as well as some yellow ochre. So now that we have the format or the underpainting to work with, I'm going to go ahead and apply some of the color here. Stay with me on this now because this is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to put in some ultramarine blue deep, some Hooker Green Deep, and watch what happens. I'm going to come in back here and I'm going to add some bushes. Let me get just a little more color. And watch what I do here. I'm taking my brush and notice how I'm holding it on end and I'm just coming in and I'm creating the illusion of the edge of grass. See that up close? Can you see that right there? how I've done that? It's very easy to do. Now what I'll do is I'll take the side of my brush and I'll pull some of that color up and away, and that will create the illusion of some bushes here in front of this particular area of lighter bushes. Watch as I continue along now. I'm going to take again just the edge of my brush, and I'm creating the illusion of the edge of grass back here. Now I'll show you something else that I'll do. I'll take a little bit of my Hooker Green Deep in this particular spray bottle, and watch what happens. I can just hit the edge, the top edge of this, and create a little bit of a leafy edge to it. Notice that, a lacy look. See that? How it's created a lacy look to the top. I don't want to cover up all of my foliage in the background. This is going to have a layering effect. So I'm going to have a dark layer of my foliage here in front of a lighter area of foliage behind it. I'll continue on again. Watch what I do very closely here. I'll take and pull some of the edge of this color down into this particular lighter color below, and I've created a little bit of an edge. See how I've done that? Now I'll come back to my palette, get a little bit more of that dark color, and again pull some of that color away. Now this brush holds an awful lot of paint and an awful lot of water, so I don't have to go back to the palette that often. Matter of fact, sometimes I have so much paint and water in my brush I have to get some of it out. It gets a little overwhelming sometimes. But anyway, let's take the spray bottle again, and let's just add again some of this leafy look just to the top to create the illusion that there's another layer of trees here. See how we've done that? I'll add a little bit more over in this area here. But now you can see what appears to be the edge of the grass in the distance. Notice how I've done that. Now I'm going to do one other thing for you. I've got another little surprise. I'm going to come back behind this other layer of trees here, this foliage here, and I'm going to create a layer of foliage behind here, a darker area of foliage behind here. Watch what I'm doing though at the edge. Notice the edge of this lighter area of bush. Watch what happens. I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to pull that color down into it, and notice now how we have the edge of this bush area back here. See that? And then we can come back and create the illusion of more foliage behind this particular area of brush or weeds or whatever you want to call it. Watch, I'll continue on. I'm again just pulling that color into it. Notice that? Watch what I do now. I'll come back here and we'll create the look of some trees in this area above this particular area of brush here. Watch what I do now. I'll take just the edge of my script brush. See how I'm doing that? And I'm creating some branches for you coming off of this particular area of tree to give you the illusion that this is in fact a tree. Keep in mind that painting is an illusion. That's what we're doing. We're creating illusion to the viewer. I'll continue on. Now you notice how you can see the edge of this particular, where the brush area is now. I've got a darker area of brush in front, a lighter area going back to a little darker value in the distance. We'll continue on just a little bit more, and notice now how it's all popping out. See how we're creating what appeared to be just color in that area before now comes alive. See that? See how beautiful that looks? You can do this. This is easy. This is really easy. I would simply suggest to you that you practice. I always tell my students in workshops that if you attempt a task 7 to 9 times, you'll become fairly proficient at it. And I find that to be true. If you don't believe that, just think about the first time you drove an automobile, how difficult it was. But after a few times, it became more natural for you. Now, I would exclude things like brain surgery and driving or flying a jet plane with 7 to 9 tries. But almost everything else, I think you can do it in 7 to 9 tries. All right, let's continue on with the trees here just a little bit more. I'll add some more branches in for you in a moment. See how I'm doing that? Now, I could even come back in like I did with the green here, and we can have a little fun adding a little lacy look to the tops of some of this foliage over here and have a little fun with that as well. See how we've done that? Now we got a little bit of a lacy look to the tops of the foliage or the trees here. I think you get the idea now how much fun this can be for you. This is a very easy exercise. I believe that you can do this very easily by practicing it on your own. Let's have a little fun over here. We'll add just a little bit of, let's take a little bit of our yellow and add just a touch of yellow maybe in here. just for a little fun. See how easy that is. So you can see how we've added branches, we've added all kinds of different things. Let's take our liner brush again. Let's have a little more fun with a liner brush, and we can have maybe a few branches coming off of some of this foliage down here if we wanted to. Don't put it everywhere, but just a few areas that denote that this is trees, foliage, whatever you want it to be. So just an example of what you can do with this brush and this exercise. See how simple that is? Now what I want to do is I want to spend a little more time on the grass for you. Let's take a moment and let's do that. Let me put just a couple more branches, maybe up here in the tree area, and then we'll move along and finish up that grass for you. This is a lot of fun. Sometimes you get carried away here just having so much fun you don't want to stop doing this one particular area, but that's enough in that tree area. I think you got the idea of how we make this appear to be a tree area up here. Let's go ahead and work on our grass a little bit. Now we've already done one thing. We've created the illusion that there's an edge to the grass back here. You can actually see the blades of grass that were done here by actually painting a negative painting. In other words, we put dark behind the light, and as a result, what we created was the edge of grass right along here. Now what I want to do is I want to come in, take my brush, and I'm going to take a little bit of my cerulean blue, just a little bit. I'm going to add it into my palette, and I'm going to add quite a bit of water. I'm going to put in a little bit of a glazing effect here, or just another little layer of color in a couple areas, just to tone this white down a little bit so it doesn't jump out at you so much. See how I'm doing that? See how easy that is? And all of a sudden, you've got lots of texture going on back there, and you're toned down the white. See how all of a sudden we've got lots of texture? Why is that happening? Because the original color that was there when we dried it, the edges were nice and dry, and those hard edges would remain as long as we don't go in there and rub it with our brush and just go in there lightly and put a nice light glaze in. Those edges will remain there, and all of a sudden now we've got all this texture going on. See how simple that was? Now let's come up to the foreground. Let's take our larger brush. Let's take our our flat 1-inch brush. We'll do the same thing. We'll take some of our green and our blue, this dark green, a hooker green deep, and ultramarine blue, and we'll create the illusion up here of some grass. Now watch what I do. I just take the side of this brush and I just lay it right on the metal, on the ferrule, and what I'm doing is I'm simply pulling or pushing away from me using that brush, and I'm creating the illusion of what is grass here. See that? So in the foreground, I've got this illusion going on of grass. Now I'm going to take some of this color, and we'll just come in here and just put a nice light glaze across part of it. We're going to tone down this grass area just a little bit over here. And then what I can do is take the edge of my brush and create, again, the illusion of grass areas by doing the same negative painting that I did here. See how I did that? See how I've done this to create the edge? Watch what I do over here. We'll take part of this grass area, and I can come in with the edge of my brush and create the illusion that there's some grass area over here. So now you've got the idea that there's grass going on all over this area here. I've got the illusion that there's grass here by creating the blades of grass. Over here, I've got some spray bottle going on in some areas. Watch what happens. Don't do it everywhere, just a couple of areas. That will help create that illusion of grass. We're almost coming to the end on this particular exercise, but I hope you enjoyed this and I hope you learned from it. But this is a simple way of creating the illusion of grass. Let me just continue on just a moment. I'll cover up some of this white area so it doesn't jump out at you. I don't want this to look like strobe lights hitting you. So I'm going to come in here and just tone a little bit of that white area down. A little bit more action with some blades of grass in a couple of areas, and boy, that's all it needs. See, I've also got a tapered edge on my brush. See that? I can come in if I want and drag that brush, and notice, look at that closely. You can see where the edge of that brush is hitting that paper. I can lift out color and create the illusion of grass that way. See that? It's better if it's done in a darker area like here. See that, how I've done that? That's an easy way of doing it. That concludes this particular demonstration on how to do grass. That's what this was really all about. You got a little bonus with the bushes and the trees back here because I wanted to be able to anchor this area of grass. I'm going to do one other thing for you. I'm going to take just a moment and I'm going to come in back here and I'm going to pull some of this color down just a little farther. Notice how I have a straight edge going all the way across there. I don't necessarily prefer to have that in a painting, so I want a little more interest than that. So I'm going to come down and add some darks so that there's some lost and found going on, so it's not just one area of straight bushes like a hedge going across the top there. I want it to look a little more natural than that. So see how I've done that, just to create the illusion that there's more than one area of clumps of bushes along here, not just a hedge. Anytime you attempt this painting, make sure that you're using good quality papers and paints. Practice it, have a lot of fun with it. I'm so glad that you were here today to join me on this particular exercise, and I hope you'll stay with me on future exercises as well. Thank you again for joining me. This is Tom Jones. I'll see you soon.